Hello world. Welcome back to Remakes and Remasters, where we're taking a look at a remake of a 28-year-old RPG-infused platformer for the Sega Master System. If this doesn't sound like my usual fare, you are correct. This is not the type of game I usually cover. Hell, it's not even going to be a normal Remakes and Remasters video. But I should let you know that since the 28th is a scheduled upload day of mine and June is my birthday month, June 28th is the designated day where I put up whatever bloody video I feel like. And I very much feel like talking about the Dragon Strap. Safe to say I was hyped for this remake, even if the PC release was like a month after the consoles I didn't have. That was annoying. I even tried to explain my excitement to Pouncer here. He didn't care, but yeah, I was looking forward to this, that's my point. Now, I don't have an exact recall of my time with this game. It was a long time ago and I was but a tiny little button, but I'll do my best. This is a lot more rare nowadays when almost every game you can buy has a rating of some kind right next to it. But I feel like many of us have that one game where we didn't read any reviews, we didn't get any recommendations, we simply spotted it out in the wild, took a chance and found an absolute gem. This game is not that for me. I think it was actually my brother who picked it out. Mine is Gunstar Heroes. I'd never heard of the thing until it was in my hands, and that victory in the art of game choosing is in no way dampened by the fact that it was part of a 4-game compilation and I was cheap. Or the fact that one of the other games we included was Altered Beast. Jeez, that game did not age well. No, to me the Dragon Strap is one of those games I feel like nobody else remembers. So aside from being something from my childhood that I can nostalgia all over, it made me feel special, like I was carrying this cool secret around ready to drop on my gamer friends and be like, dude, this awesome, you play now. Unfortunately, it now has a similar problem to the one I get from being a fan of the band Garbage. There's one joke about their name that I've been hearing since 1994, and telling anyone about Wonder Boy 3 The Dragon Strap usually results in a Tenacious D joke, and holy crap does that get old fast. In fact, they usually just sing a line from it, that's not even a joke. This headline gets a pass though, that is genuinely funny. So it was a complete and total surprise when I first saw that teaser site pop up. Which soon gave way to me thinking that the Dragon Strap looks a hell of a lot like the Dragon Strap when it's in URL form, which I want absolutely everyone to know about for some reason. It's the old Pen Island problem in full effect. Although the search results for Dragon Strap were far less dirty than I thought they'd be. Anyway, I didn't think this game would be remembered because it was on the Master System, a console which has been somewhat eclipsed by the NES in the history books. Not to mention the fact the game came out 28 years ago. I'm guessing I got my hands on it later because 3-year-olds are crap at RPG platformers, it's a fact. What I'm saying is this isn't exactly a prime candidate for a remake, at least if your plan is based around getting absolutely everyone's money. That pushes it closer to passion project territory, backed up by some articles showing the insane effort they put into making it play authentically. I mean, you can make something that plays a lot like the original and you'll probably get away with that. The developers, Lizardcube, pretty much reverse engineered this. Side note, I can't remember which one I saw first, but we're also supposed to be getting Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom this year, with a strikingly similar premise to the Dragon Strap. I do want to cover that too once it's out, even if it means my primarily point-and-click / DOS games channel will probably get even more Steam keys for retro-style platformers. I'm flattered, really, but I don't know what you expect is going to happen here. In the same way that Monster Boy doesn't retain the Wonder Boy name, Wonder Boy drops the 3 from its title. Then again, Wonder Boy numbering was always weird. For one thing, the game this remake remakes was called Monster World 2 The Dragon's Trap in Japan, but that's jumping ahead. In the beginning we had Wonder Boy, an action game starring a caveman who was into running, throwing axes at snails, and occasionally skateboarding. This was followed up with Wonder Boy in Monsterland, which established the formula of side-scrolling RPG platformer but gave you a time limit to get through a screen because it hated you. Building on this, we got Wonder Boy 3 The Dragon Strap, which added in the monster transformations, made things a lot less linear and a lot more awesome. And this was all still on the Master System. Jumping to the Mega Drive brought us Wonder Boy 3 Monster Lair, which is basically a shoot 'em up, so I tend not to count it. For a more fitting sequel, there's Wonder Boy in Monster World, which was basically Monsterland, but also less linear and it's a world instead of a land. And finally, Monster World 4, a Japan-only Mega Drive game starring a lady this time, with fancier sword moves, set in an Arabian fantasy land as opposed to a European fantasy land, and the lady is accompanied by a floating blue ball which gives you extra abilities. And if I sound like I'm not a fan, bear in mind I own this. That's just the Sega consoles too. The NES had the Adventure Island series which followed the original Wonder Boy skateboarding caveman formula. That's its own thing though, I'm not going to go into it here. Right, given that I'm about 1,000 words in and I haven't said anything close to a critique, I should actually talk about the remake now. Graphics, audio, some small gameplay tweaks, some far more obvious tweaks, lots to talk about. Obvious things obvious, and also first, graphics. You can go from upscaled 8-bit to full HD hand-drawn wonderment. Wait, wonderment really is a word? Oh, wouldn't have guessed. As is usually the case for hand-drawn animation, the main character got the most attention and everything they do is silky smooth. The difference here being that instead of one main character, there's 7 main characters, 5 monsters and 2 humans, who all get this treatment. I'd understand completely if they skimped on the frame count of everything else at that point, but I honestly don't think they did. There's a lot of personality injected into these sprites, no matter what they're representing, and they're not only fun to look at, they actually give you useful tells on enemy behaviour. It's a less obtuse gameplay experience with the new graphics turned on. But for purists, nostalgists, or allergic to HDists, there's the option to use ye olde graphics of yore with a single button press, which for some reason was bound to clicking the right stick. You can swap retro audio as well, and they bound that to left trigger, so weird choice. They did patch the game to use right trigger pretty soon after, and it was always rebindable, so no biggie, just thought it was odd. There's 2 places where the old graphics are not period accurate, so to speak. Your health, gold and potions info are shoved into the top right no matter what mode you're using, and the inventory screen always looks like the new one. They went to the bother of keeping the old shop screen, so I don't know why the inventory didn't get the same treatment. Kinda miss it. The new inventory is a nicely designed inventory, however, and a vast improvement on the quite clunky original. Besides, it could be worse. Back in my day, you had to get up and press a button on the console to see your inventory screen. Sorry if that seems off topic, but it's literally illegal to talk about the Master System and not mention that fact. To top it all off, you get separate options as to how your game looks and sounds, with options within those options, yo dog, etc. I really have no idea why scanlines are as common an option as they are with this kind of remake, but the Dragon's Trap has embraced them wholeheartedly. Pretty rare I see scalable scanlines for one thing. More interesting to me are the sound options. Separate settings for sound effects and music, nice. Plus there's the option for FM sound. Oh god, I'm gonna have to try and explain this quickly, aren't I? Okay, the Japanese equivalent of the Master System, the Mark III, had an FM sound add-on which made sound better sounding. The original game, despite not being released in Japan for the aforementioned Mark III, did support this sound bettering device and will actually play better sound for you if you put the game in the Mark III it was never released for. The remake lets you play with that soundtrack. And despite referring to the sound as better no less than 3 times, I actually prefer the non-FM soundtrack. Not that the remake soundtrack is bad, it's got a lot of diversity to it. There's even variation on these themes. When the original would have played the same music in 2 different areas, the remake will play a unique version that better suits where you are. Perhaps I've simply been listening to this music for so long that I had a different idea of how an upgraded version would sound. I didn't turn it off, but I'm not in love with it either. It is merely good. Maybe it'll grow on me. Right, now that I've finished hammering those 5 options for all they're worth, let's talk about gameplay in that way that only involves me talking. The biggest change is an overhaul of the charm point system. In the original, this determined what equipment you could buy via a combination of your currently equipped equipment, your current animal form, and the number of charm stones you had picked up. Don't have enough charm stones for a certain item? Mr. Pig won't sell it to you. Why is he a pig? I've always wondered. Reminds me of Final Fantasy XII's license board. Nothing wrong with it mechanically, it's just a really dumb explanation for why you can't hold a certain type of sword, or in the case of the Dragon's Trap, buy one. In fact, the Game Gear port said sod it and turned those charm stones into escape ropes instead. In the remake there's only one item that requires charm stones to buy, and instead of finding said stones out in the wild, you complete some new challenge areas which are as difficult to find as they are to beat. I mean that quite literally, by the way. If an area can be easily found, chances are it's not one of the hard ones. And some of these are absolute bastards, let me tell you. You can't change your animal form once you're inside, so each area is tailored to a specific form for maximum challenge. Weirdly, for a remake with such an appreciation of the original, there doesn't seem to be any way to re-enable the old charm point system. I'm not exactly weeping over its absence, but options are nice, and having an accurate original version outside of emulators would be nice. Speaking of retaining accuracy, there's a few features which could almost be ascended glitches from the original. The Tasmanian sword, for example, used to let you transform at will by pressing a button combination on the second controller. And since it let you transform into forms you hadn't unlocked yet, you can see how that might look like a glitch or a developer cheat they forgot to remove. For the remake, it has you equip the Tasmanian sword, jump, and then press up and attack on the not second controller, and restricting you to forms you've actually unlocked. Not that the game ever tells you about this, mind you, I found it entirely by accident. Of a similarly accidental nature, we had the Thunder Sword. It let you break these blocks here, even when it wasn't equipped. Unless you were wielding the magical saber, but that creates blocks, so it would be kinda contradictory if it broke them too. Instead, the remake gives us the Thunder Ring to serve the same purpose and make a lot more sense. Finally, there's the option to start not only as Wonder Boy, but also Wonder Girl. I say start as because you're transformed into animal form within about 5 minutes and the difference becomes immaterial. Nice option to have though, why the hell not? And as always, we come to the little touches, tiny features and improvements that were clearly added out of pure love. It's obvious that the remake team adore the original, and that shows in the sheer effort they've made here. Most of this is visible with the remastered graphics on, which makes sense. You want old graphics to look like old graphics, it's kind of its purpose. For instance, Mouseman can attach to checkerboard blocks. With the remastered graphics, these blocks will animate when he's attached to them, and if he's just walking on them, they'll appear normal. Considering how much being attached to these blocks affects your jumping, that's useful information. And then there's the scenery porn of the new backgrounds, some of which get their own ambient noise as well. I'm not sure the original village tower had a windmill, but I ain't complaining. Or how about this lovely silhouette when your character gets too close to the sun? Not just the backgrounds either. I didn't think I'd be praising parallax scrolling in a 2017 game, and yet there it is. It is there, and it looks good. And did Lizardcube really have a good reason to reverse engineer the password system to provide passwords that actually work in the original game? No, they did not. They bloody did it anyway. Not sure about that coin total, mind you, but still more effort than one could reasonably expect. While I do love this game, and I think this is a fantastic remake that even fixes a few things I found fault with in the original, I do wonder how this will fare in the modern marketplace. Because this is a simple game, even though it's one of the best games the Master System had to offer, and a significant one being that it's an early example of a Metroidvania game. Now, granted, the first entries in the Castlevania and Metroid series predate the Dragon's Trap by 3 years, but the game many think of when Metroidvania is mentioned would be Castlevania Symphony of the Night. The Dragon's Trap predates that by 8 years. Concepts like allowing non-linear exploration of the world, returning to areas with new abilities that let you access new areas, even RPG elements from getting better equipment and gaining access to new animal forms. All important parts of a Metroidvania, I feel. Dragon's Trap has them all, and yet it is a simple game. For the time, of course, that was fine. The first Wonder Boy came out for the same console, and it is stick thin by comparison. But this is nearly 30 years later. Nostalgia played a heavy part in my decision to purchase, and while I'm very happy with it, new players may not be so. I mean, what's the sum total of your available actions? You move, you jump, you swing a sword, or breathe fire, whatever. How does Lizardman benefit from new swords, by the way? You get new equipment, new animal forms with some new abilities, you fight some surprisingly easy bosses. Not just the first few either, it takes a while for them to become a challenge. I'll try hard mode at some point, that's likely what it's there for. There's more to a game than difficulty and length, of course, and I'd argue that seeing what you can do with the new different animal forms helps make up for it. I mean, one of them can fly. Remember all those giant gaps you couldn't cross? Not a problem anymore. More than a mere stat upgrade, merely unlocking the next level, this lets you see well-travelled places in a new light. Rather sneakily, it could also make the intended path to the next area seem like your own idea. And that's a lot more satisfying than a black screen that says level 2. If you're a fan of the original, I can't think of a reason not to recommend this to you. The old game is still pretty much there entirely, unless you are irrationally fond of the charm point system or the old inventory screen. Tougher sell for anyone else. Despite the innovation, it's quite a simple game. I got through the whole thing in about 3 hours, but I already knew what to do for the first few bosses. For the time, it was perfect. And for as long as it lasts, I think it's fun, and I know it's well made with a lot of love. Whether that's worth it to you, I don't know, but if you see it in a sale, I'd say it's almost certainly worth grabbing. I'm just pleased to see something from my childhood not only stay good, but actually be improved. Good job, Lizardcube. If you feel like taking on any of the other English language Monster World games, I'd be quite happy to see it. Or Monster World 4 for that matter. I mean, they made an English translation, so, you know, it's right there.